This is the RV Advisor Podcast with your host, Tom Alexander. Get all the latest information, trends, advice from experts, stories from the road, and more in the world of recreational vehicles. Now, here's Tom.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the RV Advisor Podcast. My name's Tom Alexander, and joining me today from exploring outside the 303, it is Kaylee Tachau. Hey, Kaylee.
Hi.
Did I get it right that time?
You did.
All right. Okay. I know back in rehearsal times, we were, getting that name together. Kaylee Tachau. Okay. Got it. So you're just south of Denver, Colorado, and one of the most beautiful spots in the entire country and on earth for that matter. It's just gorgeous out there. And how's the weather today right now in the Littleton area?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's gonna hit in the 90s today, so should be nice.
Very good, very good. And so exploring outside the 303, and assuming the 303 is the area code for the sort of Denver metro and beyond, you're exploring outside of that. So there's a great big world outside of the 303. Where do you set your site? Where have you set your sights recently?
Yeah, so we actually just wrapped up a 10-week Northwest and Pacific Northwest tour. So we hit Nevada and South Dakota and Wyoming, Montana, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho.
Wow. So you really, really did a lot of traveling. How many people are in your traveling crew, your family?
Yeah, so there's 4 of us. So myself and my husband, Steve, and then we have 2 kids, and they're 9 and 7.
9 and 7. And any pets too come along, or is it just the
Yeah,
4?
so we have a larger dog. His name's Diesel.
Diesel, I'll say, so Diesel comes along with you as well. And boy, that's a lot of places to visit. That's tremendous. And but is the Littleton area sort of your home base?
Yeah, so before we had launched to go full time, we had a house in Littleton, and so we have family and friends here, and we come back every 4 or 5 months just to do regular stuff, check up, and see family.
How different has it been for you during this pandemic? I'm sure you've had to make some alterations, adjustments, and transitions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually quite funny. Our timing worked out perfect. We actually came back to Colorado right before everything shut down and everybody was locked down. So we were in Colorado for 14 weeks. We got 5 snowstorms during that time, which is not fun in a trailer. And we left as soon as we could to go explore because we were getting the itch. And so that's why we went on our 10-week tour. And really most of, it's pretty normal of, wear a mask going into a store. And there was a handful of things closed, like Glacier was half closed. But we've still really been able to enjoy moving around and, being self-conscious of, where we've been and if we're feeling sick or anything like that. But we've had to make a few little adjustments.
Gotcha. We're speaking with Kaylee Tachau from Exploring Outside the 303, and it you've got a great blog that sort of I know it says you inspire others to choose experiences over things, and I guess another way to say that is perhaps the spiritual over the material, or however you want to look at it. It's going out and living life rather than acquiring things. And that's a pretty good plan for life, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. We, the American dream, right? You go to high school, you get a job, or you go to college and you get a job and you work 40 years and then you retire and then you explore. And we just didn't want to do that. We knew we only had a specific amount of time with the kids, and we really wanted to be intentional about what we were doing, how we were spending our money, how were we spending our time, and this full-time life just started from that. So it's been eye-opening to us, especially with downsizing and selling our house and selling like 90% of our things. So it really makes you aware of what you truly need, and really focusing in on being intentional about who you're with, what you're doing, and why you're doing it.
Yeah. It's funny, we hear more and more of that, and we see more and more of people in your age bracket doing this. Sure, I still say the majority of people we have on the show that are full-timers are older, my age, older, into their 60s and 70s and 80s even. And they're out on the road and they're living their life, and is exactly as you described. They worked for 40 years or so, and now suddenly they're taking in the world. You instead, you and your husband and your kids as well are, living this life, and doing it in a young age, at a young age. And it is inspiring, because you're living proof. You, among many others we've had on the show, are living proof that it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that that's kind of a surprise, maybe to some people, that they think, geez, well, how are they doing this? How are you doing it?
Yeah, good question. That's actually probably the most questions we get about that. And so my husband does purchasing for a plumbing wholesaler. And so as long as we have internet, he can work. And then I'm an engineer. I only work part-time, but I'm able to homeschool in the morning and then work in the afternoon. So getting internet was the biggest thing the biggest obstacle for us. So once we got that figured out, it was pretty much easy peasy going after that. I've always wanted to homeschool the kids, just never had the opportunity to do it living in sticks and bricks. And so the first year was very rough. It took a while to figure it out, but we just started our second year and it's just going smoothly.
Well, that's terrific. Well, we want to learn a little bit more, not only about the blog itself, but some of your adventures, specifically, and some of your favorite spots. And we'll do that right after this break. My guest is Kaylee Tachau, and she is with Exploring Outside the 303. And this is the RV Advisor Podcast. My name's Tom Alexander. Take a quick break. Back in a moment.
RV owners and those thinking about owning want to maximize the fun and minimize the hassle of buying an RV? You need GPS. It's Gigi's personal service. Our $350 package gets you me, the expert advice, and a host of outstanding services. Visit thervadvisor.com.
We are back on the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander, and my guest is Kaylee Tachau from Exploring Outside the 303, which is the Denver metropolitan area for you folks who may not know all the area codes across the great U.S., but the 303 is indeed Denver and beyond. Well, one of the area codes. We've got a ton of area codes now these days,
right?
But that's the big one that actually dates back. So, Kaylee, let me ask you. You said you shared with us that you were on the road for a long time and saw several states. I lost count at about 5 or 6, and tell us about your pick spots. Some places that you said, "Wow, this is extraordinary."
Yeah, so Glacier National Park in Montana was hands down my most favorite national park, and we only got to see half of it. So we did 2 hikes. We did the Hidden Lake hike and Avalanche Trail hike, and you hike these up, and you go to these lakes that are just like glacier blue, and there's waterfalls falling into them, and they are just, that whole area was so beautiful, and it just took our breath away. I cannot wait to go back.
Yeah, I've seen pictures, and I'm sure the pictures and the videos just don't do it justice. I'm sure it has to be, you got to behold that with your own eyes, and that's
sure.
something I would love to do someday. I regret not although I hope it's only temporary, not getting out to that part of the country, the Dakotas and Montana and Idaho and Wyoming and those beautiful places. I've got friends out there who beg me to come out for a visit, and I will do that someday. Hopefully not long after this crazy stretch we're all living in ends. And any other spots that that there was a great takeaway? I'm sure there were several.
Yeah, so actually before all COVID happened, we had done a 6-month tour of the Southwest and Southeast, and we fell in love with the Alabama coastline on the Gulf side. So Gulf Shores was phenomenal. The beaches were beautiful, and of course, you're right there in the sunsets and sunrises, and I just love the beachy towns and the vibes that it gives.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. I know that there's a lot of hidden, sort of maybe off the beaten path kinds of places that folks go, and for a while they're sort of a best kept secret, and then eventually they're not as well kept secret, and then eventually they become they become tourist traps. Hopefully, in your case with the Gulf Coast of Alabama, it remains sort of a hidden treasure. Tell folks where they can find you. Obviously, you have your website, and what they can expect to see there.
Yeah, so on our website, we do posts about locations we've been to, adventures we've done, and then also starting up this month, we're doing a monthly financial review of what it's like to travel full-time as a family. So
Wow.
we're being pretty transparent on our groceries, our gas, our mileage, how much rent is for all the different spots. We found that that's been very insightful and helpful for people on our Instagram. And so I wanted to be able to dive into it a little bit more and give some more details on that.
You know, that's terrific because, and particularly coming, you're not reading it out of like Consumer Reports, you're seeing it directly from people out in the trenches, if you will. You're a family of 4 and you've got a dog along, and there's a little expense there too, of course. And it all adds up, and it gives people a real on the ground view of what it would cost. And obviously, if you're like me living in brick and mortar here, as you can tell by the background, I'm in your typical suburban house in a messy office.
Yeah.
But, you didn't have to agree that quickly.
Just the bricks and sticks.
Yeah, it's not that messy.
No, it's good.
I'm kidding around. But no, it's certainly, something of a transition. You go from that. We've all understand it. You've lived in a brick and mortar, and then transferred over to your mobile home and RV and all that. So it is a big difference, and people have been doing it for a long time. And then there's folks out there that watch and listen to this show that are not full-time RVers, or maybe they've never even RV'd, but they have friends who do, and they're interested and they're thinking about it. It's something to consider. Well, that said, you guys are providing a service with this that allow people to not only get a look in and see what it's like on a regular basis, but now adding the budget to the list and seeing how that works out. So I think that's a terrific idea. That's great. So exploring outside the 303, and that's the numerals 303, exploring outside the 303.com is where you can find the blog, and it's their website, and you can go on there and check out cool photos and adventures, I guess you could say, be the best way to describe it. And so that's terrific. Absolutely wonderful. So again, if you want to let the folks, let me ask you, are there any other places besides the site? Do you have an Instagram or any other places where folks can go?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel, and they're all exploring outside the 303. And so we post about 2 videos a week on our YouTube. So we're able to go into a little bit more depth of what we're where we're traveling, what we're doing. And then Instagram, I'm on it every day. So really very active on that.
Wonderful. That's terrific. So there you go. It is Exploring Outside the 303, not only their website, but social media. It's, Instagram and YouTube as well. So very, very cool. Check it out by all means. My guest today has been Kaylee Tachau from Exploring Outside the 303. Kaylee, thanks so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Very, very interesting and a lot of fun to chat with you. This is the RV Advisor Podcast. I'm Tom Alexander. Thanks so much for listening and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. So long, everybody.